Welcome, and especially welcome back. I am so sorry for my absence, and I thank you for your patience. In the midst of being in and out of town over several weeks, you may have heard that Fairmont Temple had a fire. Everyone is safe, and the Torahs are safe, but there was significant smoke and water damage to the main part of the building where the administrative and clergy offices are, as well as the sanctuary, chapel, social hall, and music library. We therefore have virtually no access to those spaces. In addition, the server was knocked out. What all of this means is that we have been moved to the educational wing of the building, where we are in makeshift offices with makeshift computers and finding out daily what is missing from what we are accustomed to finding normally and automatically within easy reach. While there is a certain sense of adventure and a spirit of camaraderie in this situation, it has become harder and more time consuming to accomplish just about anything. I am hopeful that with continuing adjustments, I might be able to resume something of a regular schedule. And everyone here is doing just that. Everybody else far better than I. At any rate, I thank you again for your patience and your understanding. Just days ago, I was part of a most meaningful and stimulating gathering of women, all of whom are members of Our Sisters Keepers. That's the name of the organization, Our Sisters Keepers, a women's interfaith group started in 2017 by women from the Muslim Association of Cleveland East. It is known as MACE, Muslim Association of Cleveland East, in Richmond Heights, and founded by them and by East Shore Universalist Church in Kirkland. It now embraces women of numerous Muslim, Unitarian, Jewish, and Christian faith groups in Northeast Ohio, as well as unaffiliated individuals. The gathering was hosted by the women of Fairmont Temple and was attended by them, as well as Muslim and Christian women from across our community. The topic they chose to discuss in order to come to know each other in more than a perfunctory way was what's in your garden, whether it is the garden of your home or the garden of your spirit. What do you cultivate? I think it is a wonderful question that can evoke all kinds of responses. While we allow it to sink in, let us engage in one of the things that's in our spiritual garden, the break to breathe. What's in your garden, whether it is the garden of your home or the garden of your spirit? What do you cultivate? Through our practice of breathing, we seek to cultivate mindfulness, an attitude of gratitude, the ability to be fully present in every moment, and a compassionate approach to ourselves and to others. So let us find our meditative poses, our meditative postures, with our feet solidly on the ground and if we are sitting in a chair, something both comfortable and yet not too comfortable, something that allows us to sit at ease, but with attentiveness. Or if we are standing in a place that is comfortable or even lying on the ground. And let us begin to release some of the tensions and anxieties that we hold daily in our bodies, in our lives. So starting with the tips of our heads and releasing the creases in our foreheads and releasing our ears and the smiles or even the frowns on our faces. Let us just try to be neutral, to allow our jaws to be unhinged for a moment. And if all of this begins to induce yawning, go to it, because that means that you're being successful in letting go. Let us roll our necks a bit, listening and feeling the creaks, the creakiness that is an old friend for me. I don't know about all of you. And we might lift our shoulders, scrunch up our shoulders, and then let them go. The same with our arms, our upper arms, our lower arms, our elbows. We can twirl our wrists a bit, wiggle our fingers. Lay our hands gently in our laps. If we purposefully set our hands so that they are palms up, we realize that we are not clenching them. Let us just let our fingers open and lay in a kind of receiving position, accepting position. And then we go internally as we swallow perhaps and follow our digestive system and our internal organs as we release all of the tightnesses inside of us, release our stomachs in particular, our waists, allow our hips just to sit comfortably and take inventory of our thighs, our upper legs, our knees. Our knees take a lot of punishment. Maybe rub them a bit. Our calves, our ankles we might twirl, and our feet dig into the ground, wiggling our toes. Any release that we can affect while sitting in our chairs is helpful. And then let's take those big breaths, those conscious, now expandable breaths, all the way from our chest cavities, which we might want to also allow to expand through our torsos, into our stomachs, even into our legs, our toes, our arms, just imagining that the breath is coming in, expanding everything within us. And then we release it. And then we draw in the breath again. Very conscious of what it feels like, where it's going. Just focusing all of our attention and all of our energy on that inhale. Even holding on to it as we feel it filling the spaces it doesn't normally fill. And then we release. Perhaps on a count of 5 or 6 or 4. Perhaps all at once in a big whoosh. Let's try again. Filling up as we think about every inch of the breath coming into our bodies, where it might be going, how it is distributed, how it feels, how it works in our bodies as nothing else does. Not drinking, not eating, not exercising, just breathing, which is a part of everything else we do. and releasing, which is part of the breathing. We might even rest for a moment after releasing the breath before inhaling again. In order to introduce the program of our Sisters Keepers, I was asked to reflect on what's in our garden according to Jewish tradition. There's a great deal to consider as our faith urges us to harvest lives of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. You may not be surprised to learn that I began by explaining the centrality of the Torah in Jewish life and the obligation to study and to teach its narrative, principles, guidelines, and laws. I cited several examples to illustrate what study of the Torah entails. By way of a very brief review, in the Torah is found the mythical history of the Jewish people, the story of our relationship with God, and most importantly, what we believe God wants of us as expressed in the commandments, the laws and precepts that are set forth in the Torah. For Judaism is at base a religion of law, starting with the Ten Commandments, but going far beyond them. The Torah is a kind of constitution of the Jewish people. In addition to the stories that carry moral lessons and examples, it is filled with principles, guidelines, and actual laws that are meant to govern our behavior. Such instructions as, the stranger who resides with you shall be to you as the native among you. You shall not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind. You shall not falsify weights or measures. When you lay siege to a city, do not destroy its trees. Do not plow with an ox and an ass together. The wages of a laborer shall not remain with you until morning. And many more are all found within its pages. At the conclusion of my remarks, there was a question as to why we are forbidden to yoke an ox and an ass together. The person who asked thought this was a trivial question, but it actually goes to the heart of a basic Jewish principle, that of respecting and guarding all of God's creation. We do not yoke these two animals together because they have unequal strength, and to do so would disadvantage the weaker animal and frustrate the stronger one. We are obligated to value all of God's gifts to us and to treat with compassion all of God's creatures. In addition to explaining the Torah and the obligation to study and learn because of it, I highlighted other concepts and values that Judaism enjoins us to cultivate, such as joy, gratitude, and awareness of being created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. The principle of Tikkun Olam, the responsibility to fix, correct, and perfect our world. To enhance our capacity to elevate all of life to a higher plane, and to constantly make real in our lives, our actions and our attitudes, the commandment to choose life. The principle which evoked the greatest amount of discussion and debate revolved around this last value. As I explained, that Judaism cultivates life itself as the highest value. In order to save a life, one can set aside virtually every other law. In any dilemma, if applicable, we apply the life test as we ask, what is the most life-affirming decision? Death is the great enemy in Jewish life. Nevertheless, we accept its inevitability while striving to resist it until that is no longer possible. Repeatedly, we are instructed in the Torah to follow God's laws so that we might live, a living that is more than breathing in and out. It is a living in which we aspire to be the very best individuals we can possibly be by living according to what we believe God wants of us, and to thereby elevate this life with our faithfulness and our actions. For me, and I believe for many Jews, the most important commandment in the Torah, more than the 10 Commandments, more than you shall love your neighbor as yourself, more than justice shall you pursue. The most important commandment is found in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19, where the commandment is found in 2 words: choose life. Every other law, instruction, guideline flows from this fundamental value: choose life, cultivate life. It is not always an easy choice or an obvious one. Sometimes it takes a great deal of deliberation and analysis to figure out what really is life affirming and life enhancing. But that is the goal. We have no tradition of martyrdom in Judaism. We have martyrs, but only because every other choice was taken away from them, not because they willingly chose that path. In a paraphrase of a famous description, Jews are a people who are intoxicated with life, its fullness and richness, its victories and defeats, its joys and sorrows, its endless variety, and its confounding mystery, its unrelenting heartbreak and bountiful hopefulness, its beauty, its wonder, its sacred possibilities, and its eternal dream of peace. In the very lively and engaging discussion the response to this commandment elicited, the women explored the moral implications according to Jewish law of saving another's life at the expense of one's own, suicide, assisted suicide, end-of-life procedures, martyrdom, and the responses of the other faiths represented that afternoon to similar issues. The discussion was conducted at an exceedingly high level of interest, respect, and the desire to understand. The afternoon turned out to be one of those special confluences of people and subject that worked, that coalesced, and that helped us all understand something more about each other. The gathering itself exemplified the very values Jewish tradition demands of us: the performance of mitzvot, or commandments, whereby all who were present extended themselves in friendship. The obligation to learn and to study as we did by learning about each other and about how Jewish tradition figures in our lives. The application of one of those commandments, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, inherent in our gathering. The women cultivated joy in their planning and preparations and in the fulfillment of all their efforts. We felt that by building bridges of understanding and sacred purpose, we were also cultivating the sacred work of Tikkun Olam, the repair and fixing of our world. In every possible way, it was and continues to be a life-enhancing occasion of hope and healing, of cultivation and aspiration for a world in which we all seek to be our sisters and our brothers' keepers. So let us breathe with those images and the enduring image of continuing to cultivate what we value most in our minds and in our hearts. Let us breathe again. Let us breathe in that positive approach. And breathe out the divisions, the suspicions, the knee-jerk reactions, the assumptions, the hatreds, the arrogance, the ugly qualities that keep us from reaching out to our neighbors, to the other, to any other human being. Let us breathe in possibility, experimentation, intentions that are expansive and good. Let us fill ourselves with those images, just even for this moment. And breathe out the intolerance, the dislikes, the prejudices, the negativities that mar our relationships. I suspect those negative qualities mar all of our relationships, impede all of our relationships, are obstacles to our appreciation, our love of even nature and animals and strangers. We live in a very complex world, and we can breathe in that complexity and breathe out the impulse to be defeated by it. Perhaps we can accept that complexity and live with it, with its contradictions, with its difficulties, with its challenges. Let us just stay with it, stay with our current connections, stay with our bodies. Breathing in and breathing out. By way of conclusion and encouragement to continue to breathe, to continue to cultivate in our lives the gifts and abilities that bring meaning and purpose to our days, I share with you this poem by Marge Piercy, Piercy. It is entitled To Be of Use, and it reminded me of our thoughts surrounding what is it that we want, that we seek to cultivate in the gardens of our lives. The people I love the best jump into work head first, without dallying in the shallows, and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry and a person for work that is real. May you find that work, that blessed work, in the cultivation of your life's garden. May the days ahead be filled with productive endeavor. And may God bless you. See you next time. Thank you.